Good day, everyone. My name is Jonathan Bueno from Peer Tutor Society, and today I'm going to be discussing strings and some basic string manipulation functions. So, to start, let's dive into what is a string. So, a string is essentially an array of characters, denoted here with a data type and an array of a character data type. So you can initialize strings two ways. You can initialize it like this with the double quotation, and you can initialize it in a traditional array initialization such as this with the curly braces and each character having a single quote enclosed on them. So this just solidifies that a string is actually an array of characters. But when we're initializing strings, we typically get the maximum number of characters a string can have and add 1. So as we can see, DLSU and ADMU both have 4 characters, but here we initialized the array as 5. So why is that? C automatically appends a null byte at the end of each string. We don't see it here because C does it for us, but in the backend, a string ends in a null byte. The programming language counts the null byte as one character and thus adds it to the overall items of an array, resulting in a +1 array size. So that's pretty standard when we're initializing strings. Now let's talk about displaying strings. When we're displaying strings as standard with other data types, we use a printf function. But in this case, instead of using, for example, when displaying integers, we use %d, or when displaying characters, we use %c. When strings, we use %s, short for string, I guess. But that's how we display strings using the printf function, using the %s format specifier. So we have here str and str and the format specifier s. Let's try running it. So the code resulted in my university DLSU and other university ADMU, str having a DLSU seen here, and str having ADMU value seen here. So this just solidifies that you can use both of these initializations and it will still result in the same string. Personally, I would use this because it's so much easier than having to enclose each character of a string in this manner. Imagine if you have a 30 character string and you have to do this to each character. That's very tedious, so this might be a bit more convenient for most. So that's it for displaying strings, but let me just add that you can also display strings using a different dereferencing notation such as this. So since a string is a character array, you can use a dereferencing notation to access each character in an array. So in this case, we're accessing the third character of the string str using this notation. So the pointer operator and then this line of code enclosed in a parenthesis. So let's try running it, but first let me comment this out. So the third character of str is s, and we can check it here. So 1, 2, 3, as it is. Something a bit more intuitive would be this, and it will still yield the same result, s. And that's just because when you're using the string name or the array name of an array, it returns address of the first character of that array. In this case, D. By adding this code plus 2, we're essentially saying get the third address of the array and then return the value of that address by using this pointer. So let's try this. str without the plus, it should return the first character, which is D. It's the same as this, plus 0. It should return D. And then if we do plus 1, it will return L, and then so and so forth. So that's it when dealing with displaying of strings. Now let's move on to string length. So string length is a bit self-explanatory. It is the length of the string or the number of characters of a string. Now I mentioned earlier that each string is appended or rather ended by a null byte, and one would think maybe that would add to the string length, but in C, or specifically this function strlen, it stops counting the characters when it encounters a null byte. So when we run this strlen str, I'm just using a printf function and then a format specifier D, because strlen returns an integer value. Let's try running it. So the string length is 4, denoting 4 characters in the string DLSU. Let's try altering this to DLS, and let's see if that changes anything. And it does. The string length is 3 because there are now 3 characters in the string. And then if we substitute that with str, it should return 4 because the str array has 4 characters in it. So that's how you display the string length of a string. You use the strlen function. Now let's move on to inputting strings. So just like other data types, when inputting another data type, you use the scanf function. In inputting strings, you also use the scanf function, but we use also the format specifier %s, denoting string. The syntax looks like this: scanf %s and then the name of the string. Note that you don't need to add an ampersand or an address of operator because the name of the string is already an address. So when you add a address of operator, it's a bit redundant, and I'm not actually sure if it will result in an error. Yeah, so it will result in an error because it's already an address. So let's try running this. Sorry, I forgot to uncomment this. So you can also declare strings like this multi-line or in a single line separated by a comma. Also, additionally, this is how you initialize empty strings or strings that don't have any characters in them. Alright, let's try running it again. Input a string max 4 cars. Let's say the inputted string is uste. So when we inputted the string, it's stored in the cpy str1, and then when we printed cpy str1, it resulted in the inputted string. Now, what if we wanted to have maximum of 4 cars, or more than 4 cars rather? Let's say it's gonna be an error or a logical error because cpy str1 only allows 4 maximum characters plus the null byte, so 5 characters in the array. If we want to limit the maximum number of characters that the string can be inputted, we use this format specifier. So 4 as in the maximum of number of cars, and then s. Let's try running it again. Let me just So if I say hello, it would just take the first 4 number of cars. And I mean, it's a bit logically inconsistent because you want it to get the entire string, but it only stored the first 4 letters. But in our case, we wanted 4 cars to be the maximum, so that's how you do it. Alright, after inputting strings, we can now move on to some basic string manipulation functions, and the first one is strcpy. So what is strcpy? It copies the content of string 1, in this case cpy str2, to string 2. It's a bit unintuitive now that I look at it, but the first string will have the contents of the second string. Let's try running this. Let's try running it. So let's input a string value to cpy str1. Let's just say hi. So hi is stored in cpy str1. At line 25, it printed cpy str2, and we can see that it is an empty string because there is no value here. But after strcpy function, we copied the contents of str1 to str2 such that at line 27, when we print the cpy str2 string again, it now has the contents of str1. So that's how strcpy works, and that's how copying strings in C works. Now let's move on to concatenating strings. Concatenating means appending another string to an already existing string. Now let's see this line of code. The value of cat str is cat str. If we scroll up, we can see that cat str is initialized as an empty string. So this should be an empty string. But after the strcat function, we're concatenating str to cat str. Let's comment this out. So let's try that. Alright. So in this first iteration or printing, the value of cat str is an empty string. After this, the value of cat str is dls because we concatenated str to cat str, and if we look back, str is dls. So by the time that we're printing this, we already concatenated a space and str to cat str, resulting in dls space admo. So that's what I mean by concatenating strings. You don't replace the pre-existing string, you just append another string to an already existing string denoted here. It is also important to note that the string that you're storing, the concatenation, should support the number of characters that the concatenated string will have. So if we look back, cat str has a 20 array size, meaning that the maximum number of characters is 19. And then if we look here, I mean, it's well below 19, but it is just important to note that the string should accommodate the maximum number of characters of the resulting concatenated string. So that's concatenating strings using strcat. Lastly, we have comparing strings. So sometimes we want to compare strings if it's more than or less than another string or equal to another string, and how we do that is we use the strcmp function. So strcmp function takes in two strings, str1, let's say this is str1 and this is str2. If str1 is greater than str2, it will return a positive number. So conversely, if str1 is less than str2, it will return in a negative number. But if str1 and str2 are the same, it will return a 0. So let's try running this code before I explain further. So here we can see that line 38 printed 1, which is a positive number, meaning that str1 is greater than str2. Line 39 negative, meaning str1 is less than str2. And then lastly, line 40 returned 0 because they are the same string. So how does C judge this comparison? So C judges this comparison using the ASCII table. So an ASCII table is a table that assigns a character to a specific decimal value or a hexadecimal value, and it checks this, or the function checks each character by their ASCII value. So for example, if we were to judge this character by character, the first character H and H, they're the same. So since they're the same, the function moves on to the next character, which is I and E. So since they're different, let's see which one is bigger than the other. I has a decimal value of 105 while E has a decimal value of 101. So since I is bigger than E, we can say, or the function concludes that str1 is bigger than str2, resulting in a positive number. So let's move on to line 39. The first three characters are the same. So let's move to the next character that is different, which is period and question mark. If we look at the ASCII table, question mark is 63 while period is 46. So obviously 63 is bigger than 46. Therefore str2 is bigger than, or rather str1 is less than str2, thus resulting in a negative result. Lastly, since these are the same string, it will return 0 because both are equal. So that's pretty much it for strings. Let me know if you have any more questions. Comment it in the comment box in this video. And that pretty much concludes our discussion for today. Thank you everyone for listening, and then see you all in the future.